Hi, it's Mystical, and today I want to get into why I came out with this encounter and why I can talk about it the way that I do. So, I've been on two other podcasts. I've talked to people like Wes Germer, if you know who that is, on Sasquatch Chronicles. I've talked to him about this, even though I felt like I sounded like a complete idiot. But for some reason, I felt better talking about this through a recorder. I don't know, I guess it just takes some of the nerves off because the story does sound quite crazy when you really think about it. And when you say it out loud to someone directly, even somebody like that, somebody who has a podcast for Bigfoot, who that person themselves had an encounter, it was just really nerve-wracking. I don't know. I was just really not in my element, I feel, when I was saying these stories and when I was telling my encounter. And I'm really sorry, too, if some of these episodes come across like I'm talking really fast or I feel, I sound anxious and I'm kind of all over the place. It's a learning curve, and I'm trying to learn how to do this in a better way, if you know what I mean. So anyway, some people might be wondering why I can talk about Bigfoot the way that I do and why that I even reach out to podcasts or I do talk about it pretty openly. Like, people kind of know that about me because people know that I think they associate me with Bigfoot because I have been so open about it, and I do love talking about it. And I have talked about it with people who probably have no idea what even Bigfoot is. And I'm not really too ashamed to talk about it, but the reason why is, first of all, in the beginning though, like years ago, I guess I want to say I was in my late 20s when Bigfoot really started to come back into my life, and I was having like a mental breakdown, and I felt like I just couldn't connect with people, and I felt really lost in life, and I was thinking about my whole life and why it even mattered that I was here, because I was just thinking of like self-harm and things like that, and I didn't know why, like what was the purpose of me being here, essentially. And I remember that happening, and that was one of the core memories that stick out to me that make me think, wow, there's something really magical and mystical about life that I think I'm missing. That's what really got me back into Bigfoot again. But before that, I wasn't too much into Bigfoot like I was, and that's when I ended up finding the podcast like Sasquatch Chronicles, and I think I've listened to just about every episode. I mean, maybe not every episode, but I've definitely listened to quite a lot and many hours as I work, because my job, allows me to listen to whatever I want to all day. So I listen to so many hours of that show and other shows like The Confessionals and Vic Cundiff's shows, if you know who that is, just amazing podcasts. And I at some point thought I wanted to share my story with them, and I did, but I just didn't feel like, I just felt very nervous, I guess, and I just feel like maybe there's more to say on this subject, but really I'm going off topic again. So I initially, though, I was kind of nervous about talking about this because it is just a nerve-wracking conversation sometimes, and it does feel very awkward a lot of the times. I mean, I've had told people about my encounter in the past. I've told like a couple people I remember in particular, and I brought them like kind of to the spot, and like they were really interested in what I was saying, and that was a really cool experience. But there was other people who just don't believe it or laugh at it. So you never really know what you're going to get when you talk about it with people. It's definitely way more of an accepted topic now than it used to be, but it's still pretty taboo. When I first started to talk about this, like I was kind of worried about like my reputation and my job, even though like I work for myself. Like, I don't know why I kind of worried about that. I just kind of worried about other things. Maybe because back then there was kind of a little part of my brain that thought, well, maybe I might go back to school and I might get a more professional career. I don't know. There was a part of me that I just really wasn't sure where I was going in life. I was in my late 20s, and you never really know at that age, what life hasn't planned for you. But right now I'm like really certain that, I have no plans of going back to school or being any kind of professional, like a lawyer or doctor or anything like that. Like those opportunities, I feel like they're long behind me, and they're not something that I even want to do. And it's not in my cards. Basically, it's just not, and they're just not something I feel like I'm born to do, essentially, and I just don't have the skills for them. I don't have the mindset for them. And yeah, sure, anyone in their 30s, they could change their life around and try to go to school and become a professional, but, I'm not trying to discourage anyone, say, oh, by the time you get to your 30s, you can't do any of that. but I just felt like that wasn't for me and it wasn't something I was going to do. So anyway, like basically I have nothing to lose when it comes to my career and my job. I have nothing to lose. I have no reputation. Second of all, I've always been kind of the outcast. So when you're any type of like neurodivergent, or if you have like a mental disorder or mental illness or anything like that, people tend to be able, they can point it out pretty quickly about you. And I was always the odd one out. I was always kind of strange and unusual, and I didn't really fit in anywhere. And I was always kind of introverted and just awkward. And it's not that I don't like people. Like, I really do try to see the best in everyone. I really, really do. And I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And I try to be a better person in that way. And I just really try not to put other people down or anything like that. But I just could never connect with people very well. And, you know, I was so tired of just going and being social with people and end up either being picked on for something, or I would literally have absolutely nothing to say. So it'd be just a complete mute, and it'd be so uncomfortable and awkward. And, you know, I eventually to this day just stopped hanging out with people, especially like newer people, because it's just so awkward and it's uncomfortable and it really drains my energy, you know, most of the time being a sensitive person. And, you know, with my depression and whatever, just completely, sometimes my depression, it just wipes my brain of any thought at all. It's really weird. Like some days I have a lot going on in my mind that I can't even keep up with it. And then other times there's just like not one thought in my mind. So yeah, it can be hard. And, you know, people can take mental illness the wrong way. People always tend to turn things around and make it kind of about them. Like, oh, if I'm quiet, it's because there's something wrong with them. Whereas it's really because I'm introverted, number one. Number two, I might be having a really bad mental day and it has nothing to do with other person. And so like in my younger years, people would think I'm stuck up, or I think I'm better than them, or I'm too good for them. And it's just, you know, that wasn't the case at all growing up. Like I was my self-esteem is still the worst. I have just such awful self-esteem that it's kind of really bad how low my self-esteem is. And it'll always be that way. I'm pretty sure. Like there's some things, you know, that I've worked on that I've been able to make better, but it's never going to be like what I guess you would say like a normal person is. It's really just hard to keep a conversation. It just really is. And you know, it's just really hard to connect with people, as I said. And it's just like, and sometimes like also the anxiety of saying the wrong thing. I mean, I've said the wrong thing so many times and I don't mean it that way, but it's just the OCD or whatever just comes out the wrong way. And it just, you know, and the hours and the pain of just rethinking of what I said in that moment, and the anxiety of thinking, you know, it's just so overwhelming. It's just, sometimes it just feels so much better when I keep to myself. But I feel like I'm just kind of going off topic. But like basically I have no social circle, you know. I don't have a family. I don't have anything like that. I don't have kids. I don't have a husband or anything. Like I have no social circle. I have no in-laws. I have nothing that holds me back from talking about these types of things, because I really don't have anything to lose in this area, you know. People can come after me and make fun of me and laugh and mock me or say that I'm lying or that I'm trying to get attention, and it wouldn't bother me because I'm already getting negative attention normally and without even talking about Bigfoot, you know. Like in the world, if you have one little thing different about you, if your lifestyle is different, or if you have like a different color hair or something, or if you, I don't know, like if say you're not married, oh, that's a red flag, something's wrong with you. People get weird about that. Or if you don't have kids, some people get weird about that by a certain age. Or if you don't have a certain job or don't make a certain income, or you wear a certain clothes, like people will nitpick and judge and hate you and shun you for just the most basic things. And I'm so used to that by now, because I don't have the normal typical social skills that, you know, I do believe I'm neurodivergent, and it's, people can spot that about me pretty quickly. And so it's just every little thing, from not smiling at the right time to not laughing at the right time, or laughing at the wrong time, all these little tiny micro things, it all adds up. So basically, like I don't care at this point, you know. I do not care at all. So that's why I feel like I can come out about this and tell the world, because honestly, I'm already getting negative attention. I'm 100% certain, again, like I'm just not going to do anything professional or anything like that. So if people want to mock me and shun me, that's completely okay, because I'm already the odd one out, you know? And at this point, the only person's approval that I truly, truly give any crap about is God's. Like, I live for God, and and it just reminds me that this is my temporary home, but God is my true home. You know, heaven is my true home. It's my life. You know, everything is up there in heaven, and that's where I know I'm going. So people's opinions don't bother me nearly as much as they used to growing up. And it does hurt once in a while, because it kind of makes me sad that people are like that, because I just feel like the world could be a better place, and there could be so much more better things that our energy could be put towards. But I also understand it. You know, people are just trying to find their own way in the world, and and you know, I'm no saint. You know, I judge people. I do sometimes. I try not to. And I've definitely been better about it, but, you know, we all do sometimes. You know, most encounters that I hear, I truly believe 100%, and like, well, not 100%, but like 99, probably point whatever percent of people who have encounters and who talk about them, I believe them. And you know, there's been some encounters there's some people who share their encounters that I've been kind of tricked by, but that turned out to be fake. I'm getting a little bit better at spotting, you know, which ones are fake or not. But for the most part, I really do think that a lot of them are true, and you can just tell, you know. And it is nerve-wracking to come out with these kind of stories. I mean, I can't even imagine if I had like a more of a mainstream kind of life, if I had a family, if I was like, had like a church group or something, or like I was in some, you know, society of some kind, or I had a professional career, like if I was a cop or a lawyer or something like that, or, you know, a pilot or something, like that would be really tough to come out with something like this. If you do have, you know, more of a social circle, I do not have that. That's why I feel like I can come out the way that I do. I literally have, you know, I have who I have around me, and they know that I talk about Bigfoot. They know that I have an encounter, and that's just that. And so, yeah, there are some encounters though that I do think that I'm not really sure, and I do have my doubts about some of the encounters that people say or whatever. And that's the crazy thing about all this, is you really have to put your trust into an absolute stranger that they're telling you the truth, and you don't really know if they are or not. You know, you have no idea if this Bigfoot story I'm telling you is true, you know, or Bigfoot encounter. I can tell you and scream to the top of my lungs that what I saw, you know, is what I saw, and that it happened, but it doesn't mean that I could be lying, you know. You know, there's no proof, you know, but I would gladly accept a lie detector test. I would definitely take one on this. I would have no problem taking a lie detector test. None at all. Like, I saw what I saw, I swear to God. I have no reason to lie to anybody about this, and I don't know. I really don't. But yeah, I knew in my heart, like even at 10 years old, you know, what I was looking at was a Bigfoot. You know, something told me it was Bigfoot. Even though I barely knew about, you know, cryptids at the time. I didn't know about any cryptids, to be honest. I knew about unicorns, if you could call a unicorn a cryptid, you know, or a dragon, but those were more mythical creatures. I didn't know about the dogman till very recently. I didn't know about the Mothman. I didn't know about all the other strange things, the Thunderbird, the people even say that they see like dinosaurs or something, like type creatures, and flying panthers and things like that. So I never really heard about that growing up. The only reason why I even probably knew what Bigfoot was just only from the Goofy movie. So that was like one of my favorite movies growing up, and that was the only reference that I had, I believe, at the time, because that was what was going through my mind. Like, as I'm looking at Bigfoot right now in my mind's eye, I remember being 10 years old and thinking, oh, that's Bigfoot from the Goofy movie. I wasn't sure how I was able to connect him, I guess because it's monkey, ape, woods, but the Bigfoot on the Goofy movie looked nothing like what I was looking at, because other than the fact that it was an upright walking ape in the woods that was huge, it was all black. It was all black, and I didn't, you know, it didn't look anything like the monkey on the Goofy movie. If you've never seen it, the monkey on the Goofy movie, the Bigfoot on the Goofy movie is like an orangutan, like it's got reddish fur, and I believe I believe like a peach colored face, light colored. It didn't look like the Bigfoot from the Goofy movie, but it was abnormally tall. It was an ape-like thing. It was humanoid. And at 10 years old, I was able to identify it as Bigfoot. And I did look at it as a sort of celebrity, like it was like meeting a celebrity, I guess. It's like, oh, it's Bigfoot. Bigfoot was on the Goofy movie. Everybody knows about Bigfoot. They're looking for Bigfoot. I have no idea how I knew that at 10 years old, because I watched a lot of Animal Planet and stuff, maybe, but I didn't, I was interested in ghosts and paranormal and angels and things like that, but I didn't know anything about Bigfoot really. Like, I guess I did. It's really, really hard to say, but I wasn't super into it before I saw it as a kid. I can definitely say that. Just, I knew that people were looking for it. I knew that people were mystified by it and thought that it might be out there, kind of like the Loch Ness Monster. I guess I correlated it with that. And I thought I found it. It's like, okay, there it is, And the only other thing that I did think of, that I don't think I've ever mentioned this on any other podcast, but this is something that I did absolutely think this when I was looking at it, I'm almost positive, is the Shadow Man. And I'm going to make a whole other video on that. So I had actually 3 notable encounters of the Shadow Man in my lucid dreams. Besides the conical hat and the fur, this Bigfoot was so dark, and it definitely resembled a shadow, like the Shadow Man. If you don't know what the Shadow Man is, it's this strange humanoid black thing that is like a shadow, and it's darker than night, and you see it in your lucid dreams. And what it does is it comes out of nowhere when you least expect it, and it brings this absolute terror. I'm telling you, it's fear like you've never felt before. It's just absolute terror that I didn't even feel when I was looking at Bigfoot. And it creates this terror, and then you feel this heaviness in your chest, like it's coming up to you, and it's pressing like on your heart or whatever, like trying to get your heart to stop or something, like almost like it's putting you back in your body. But thank God I haven't had it in a while. But I've had 3 notable that I can very, very clearly define as Shadow Man experiences that I can make in another video. It's very scary, and I've had other like smaller experiences with Shadow Man that it wasn't so obvious that it was Shadow Man, but it definitely felt like it was, and maybe I felt his presence or her. Like, there really isn't any gender to it. We just call it, I don't know why we call it the Shadow Man. It's really more of a shadow spirit entity. So I remember thinking, reconsidering and thinking maybe for a second it was the Shadow Man come to life, and because Shadow Man felt very real to me in my lucid dreams, but I was like, no, it's a Bigfoot. And I think maybe for a few seconds I was going back and forth on the 2 possibilities. So it's good that things like this are getting easier to talk about, I feel, and people are able to share these experiences more often now. And I think that with the world being the way it is, it's just going absolutely crazy. I think people don't know what's up or down anymore. People don't know what to believe anymore. I mean, it's with AI and everything. It's not helping, and I'm really kind of annoyed and sick of seeing so many AI cryptid videos now. I will admit, when they first started coming out, I was tricked a few times. There's a few videos that I've seen that I'm like, okay, this is definitely that I feel is Bigfoot, and these are older videos that came out before AI got so big. But I am so sick and tired of being tricked online by some of these videos, and you can't really trust any of them anymore. They're so realistic, and I don't trust any of them, and I think that it's going to make it that much harder to have any real proof of these things, because these videos are just so convincing, and they're only getting better, and they're just annoying me. Some of us really do want to get to the truth, and it just makes it that much harder. What it really does is it makes people, I feel like, that much more unconvinced that these things exist, and that it's almost like fun and games, because they see the videos and they're like, that they know that the videos aren't real, and they're like, well, this is all we have, but that's just where we're at right now. But I do love that the discussion about Bigfoot and the ghosts and the paranormal are becoming more accepted, and that there's more channels and there's more podcasts that even openly talk about these things and consider the possibility of them, and give them kind of the space and the respect that they deserve. And now there's people figuring out now and and finally understanding that the whole satanic, ritual abuse stuff is actually real with the elites and all that stuff. And people are just really starting to open their eyes right now in this day and age of all sorts of things that we've been closed to. So it's really interesting to see how society is going to move forward now that so many more people are aware and awake to so many things. It's so hard. It's going to be so hard to hide things anymore. Like, even if you're in the government and all that, or if you're trying to do anything anymore, it's all out there. It's all out in the open. And at least we have that to our advantage, when things start getting really bad, which I hope they don't. But, we all kind of feel like things can get really bad really quickly anymore for all sorts of reasons. And at least we kind of are more open to communicate with each other a little bit more about really what's going on, and we can all figure out the truth. I think that's what we all want anymore, we just want the truth. Like, even if it's brutal, even if it's awful and it makes us feel bad, I think we all, at the end of the day, we just want to know what's going on. We want to know where our tax dollars are going. We want to know the truth, and it's very hard to figure that out, and it's just very confusing. Humanity's always been like this. It's always had its struggles. We're just in a really weird spot, I feel. Still, more often than not, I feel like you are going to be laughed at and mocked, and I think I went way off topic here. I don't think I would be the same person if I didn't have this experience, and I ended up questioning reality as we know it. It was tough. It was pretty hard to deal with that growing up. I think it really did affect us in different ways, and I think that when you do have an encounter like this, it really does affect you. Regardless if you notice it or not, it has some effect on you. It makes you more aware. It really does. It makes you more aware. If this is real, then what else is real? It is hard to talk about. And when I started to get more friendships and relationships and things like that, I never talked about this. And, I never did until, later in my 20s. And that's when I started to be more open about it. And it is hard. It is hard to come out with this story with family and friends. And it is even hard to talk about with people who have had an encounter, because you worry, oh, well, if they had an encounter, what did they see? Is it different than what I saw? Are they going to judge me for what I saw? Or are they going to think that I'm lying because what I saw was different from what they saw? Maybe some people feel like that. I personally did feel awkward. I felt weird. I always feel kind of weird talking about it with people. There's a level of fear, this undercurrent, I guess, it's of fear that kind of comes with talking about these topics with people. It just makes you question everything at the end of the day. It makes you question everything and what you think and this reality that we live in. It makes you wonder why are things the way that they are, and I just can't wrap my mind around it. And I know in my last video, I talked about why things are the way they are. And I talked about, I think one of the reasons why everything is the way that it is because there's like billions of more people. And I hope that didn't come across the wrong way. But what I mean to say is that our society needs to be restructured just naturally. It's just the natural way of things. And I hope that it gets restructured in a not too harsh of a way, because it just makes me wonder if one day society will ever be reconstructed with the cryptids in mind. Will they ever have a place in our society in any way? I think that as we learn more about this stuff, as more information is coming out, not just about cryptids, but about aliens, as there's more stress on the environment, as there's more stress in general and lack of jobs and AI and all these things going on right now, and just all these people just looking for work and tired and drained and just don't know what the heck is going on. There's so much of that. I just really hope that people realize, I think now is the time to just rethink what we know, rethink the life that we know and change it in any way that we can and be different, create a different society, because I think that's the way forward. And I think that Bigfoot is so much bigger than just a cryptid or a monkey ape in the woods. I think there's so much more to this, and that's what I'm trying to discover and find out. I told some podcasts eventually, and I kept it quiet, under wraps for a very long time though. It would come across my mind here and there, but not a whole lot. And I think it was because I was a kid. I think it was, I think it's different when you see them when you're a kid, because when I was a kid, it's just it exists. Bigfoot is there. It's just one of those many mysteries in the world that we find out. And it just wasn't that big of a deal to me. It really wasn't. To some people, I'm sure, I just can't imagine the shock that some people feel seeing it for the first time. I mean, there's got to be like this layer of absolute shock, and it shocks you to your core. And like the way that people describe their encounters, especially as an adult, and they experience a level of fear that is just crazy, and they can't even believe what they're seeing. It haunts them and all that, and it just never did that for me. And I think it was because I was a kid, but I did deal with so much mental illness, especially around that time. And I don't know if it was because I was 10, and 10, 11 is just a really hard age, and I was dealing with so much mental illness at that time. Like, I never had OCD so bad. I don't do that now, but when I was a kid, I was literally hoarding garbage, and I was turning the light switch on and off. I don't know if that's Bigfoot related, because I'm not 100% on if that started before or after, but I know it was after. It had to been after, because it was 10 or 11. I'm not really sure. That those ages were really hard for me, and I really struggled, and I barely slept at night, and I worried a lot. I had a big imagination, don't get me wrong. I had so much fun. I am so grateful for the house that my parents were able to get and rent after all these different houses that we had lived before. I was very grateful for that. And don't get me wrong, I understand that a lot of people where we were financially, a lot of people don't get what we got. We got to have a woods, we got to have a yard, and we got to grow up with that. And when things got really tough at home, I was able to go for walks in the woods with my dogs, and I was able to have a connection and create a connection that I wouldn't have had otherwise, because I couldn't afford a car. I didn't get my first car till I moved, out of state, and I had help from my fiance at the time's family, and I'm forever grateful for that. That was the first car I've ever had, but I don't know if I would have even had a car to this day if it wasn't for them, because I was struggling so bad. I could barely keep a job, and my mental stuff just kept me in the way of everything. And it was really hard for me to go up in anything because of how I was socially. I was just so awkward, and it just comes right back again to being the odd one out, and I'm at a point now where I just do not care anymore. I'm just living my life. I'm doing what I need to do to survive. There's days that I don't even want to get up or do anything. I don't even want to live for me. Why do I want to live for someone else? You know what I mean? And maybe that's just the depression talking, but why do I care? The older I get, I guess the less I care, and it's just been a godsend, because I used to care a lot what people thought about me. And I still kind of do, but it's just, and when you get to your mid-30s, thank God, it just kind of fades away. And if people, again, want to think I'm crazy for saying this, go ahead. I am entitled to my own opinions. I have lived on this planet for 30-something years. I mean, I'm freaking getting old. I've experienced enough, I think, by this age. I don't know why 30-something years really isn't a lot, but for some reason, to me, it just feels like the longest time. I don't know if it's because I've moved so many times, or I've had so many different eras in my life that, nothing was very constant. I don't know if that's it, that I feel like I've lived so many different lifetimes, but I truly do. And I feel like I just feel so old, and I feel like I've lived so many different lives. The life that I'm talking to you about at 10 years old just feels like another world. It doesn't even feel like the same world. It doesn't feel like I'm talking even about the same place. It feels like I'm talking about another dimension, or not another dimension, just literally another lifetime in another planet, because the world was different, and I'm so scared for where it's going. I am terrified. But I know that in the end, we can do as much damage with the AI generators or whatever, the super center, the AI, whatever the heck you want to call it. We can do so much damage there and just destroy the earth and poison the rivers with the AI water residue runoff, or whatever you want to call it. We can create all these data centers, and we can do all these horrible things to the environment. And you know what? In the end, it's not. I used to worry so much that it is the animals, and yeah, in the nature, in the plants, and the earth itself, we're going to be harmed. And yes, it is, but in the end, it's going to be us. We're not going to survive that, is basically what I mean to say. The cockroaches, the alligators, the crocodiles, the sharks, they're going to survive it. A lot of animals are going to survive a lot of the stuff that we are going to be putting the earth through in the next decades. We aren't. We aren't going to survive that. It's going to be a collapse of humanity. I don't want to say that gives me comfort, but we have done so much damage. There's a species of bugs, I think, and other critters that are being extinct because of us and going extinct. There's quite a few animals that they don't think are going to be around anymore in the next 50 years, the critically endangered ones. Yeah, we are going to make a dent, but I'm telling you, when things get so bad, it's really going to be us that are going to be suffering the consequences. And I think people think that there's going to be some kind of savior, or there's going to be somebody who's going to come to save us all, like that myth of Elon or whatever, saying that we're going to be going to Mars or something like that, which isn't true. I don't think we can make it to Mars, and I think that even if we did, we aren't allowed there. I don't think the aliens want us anywhere near another planet, not even the moon. Maybe, who knows, but that's my opinion. I don't think the aliens want us anywhere outside of Earth. And they'll make sure of that. We think that there's going to be some savior. I think we think of movies like WALL-E, which I love that movie. That was one of my favorite movies. And we think that the Earth is going to be like that. It's going to be trash. It's going to look like Mars with just a bunch of trash on it. And then we're going to be able to go up to this spaceship and have everything done for us with the screens and the everything handed to you, and us being on these machines 24/7, having them move us around and things like that. But in all reality, none of that's going to happen. And it's going to be just horrific what's going to happen. I don't mean to scare anybody, and I don't mean to... Basically, what I mean to say is we are so much more vulnerable and fragile than we give ourselves credit for. Like, yes, we are very adaptable, and we do have so much advantages from other species, but we are, at the end of the day, very fragile, and our systems are built on toothpicks sometimes rather than bricks, one thing goes, everything goes. Like, say you take away electricity, say you take away gas, say you take away things like that, and everything we know crumbles, We don't have the infrastructure. So basically, what I mean to say is, like, if we want to have, we've got all these elites and stuff telling us to have more kids or whatever the population is going, but yeah, sure, whatever. That doesn't make any sense, though. And it's just like, people can't afford it, and it's like rats in a cage, When there's not enough resources and there's not, any certainty of the future, people aren't going to want to go through that. And then you have women who are realizing that they want something different from their lives now that they have the opportunity and the chance. Basically, what I mean to say is, if we want to have billions of people on the planet like this, 9 billion, however billion, and keep growing until we get to like 10 billion, I just think that life needs to be different. If we want to have that many people on the planet, why don't we have more people working from home? Why does everyone have to drive and waste gas to go to the office, Why does everyone have to work 9 to 5? Maybe there needs to be some kind of universal basic income. Maybe taxes need to be different. Maybe we need... if we don't really adjust to the different times, we have to get with the times, is basically what I mean to say. Instead of building these McMansions with no yards, we need to be building more efficient homes. Our whole home system needs to be changed. Everything that we know, we should have more eco-friendly kind of homes with community gardens, and instead of building these huge giant houses with no yards and after clearing entire woods, like what's going to happen in my childhood woods that I love, with all my heart, I got to see that get destroyed before I pass away. Unfortunately, maybe I'll pass away before then, but I've already seen enough of it get destroyed to the point where it's broken my heart. My heart is broken, guys. My soul is crushed, and I just feel so sad for so many things by this age and this point in my life. The place that I would have loved to see flourish and thrive is the exact opposite. There's nothing I can do about it. There's just not one thing. And all I can do is just, talk about this stuff, bring some awareness. Who knows what can happen in the future? If I do end up winning the lottery, I would definitely buy that piece of land, and I would do my best to try to make it like a community place. But like, really, like, I think everything we know, like, just should change, right? It should just be more efficient. And I don't think that none of those things are happening. And so many things are focused on the wrong things right now. Everyone's focused on money and survival, and everyone's kind of like out for themselves right now. But anyway, I have really gone off on a huge tangent here. This video is just, it doesn't really make much sense. I don't know. I'm really sorry for going off a tangent, but I'm really not feeling great today. But I promised myself that I was going to keep making these videos and I wasn't going to quit this time, because every time I try making these videos, I always end up stop making them. But this time I really do want to try my best to create this channel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.